yogis, thank you so much for joining me for another online yoga class. This Saturday is Halloween, and in the spirit of Halloween, this class is going to be themed as trick or treat. So in general, we're going to be practicing with arm balances today, and these can be postures which people either love or hate. So the trick part of the postures is it's going to be hard work. You're going to have to really use your breath to stay focused, keep that lift and stay strong in the postures. The treat part is they're really good fun. So I find these postures really nice. I feel light, I feel balanced, and after I've done my practice, I feel a sense of ease and movement in the body where I feel like I've done some work, but also I found that nice energy within. So if you wanted to bring a cushion and maybe a block just to help you for support in these postures, that's going to be really helpful. Even if you never ever get your feet off the floor and you stay with your feet on the floor throughout the entire practice, that's going to be fine. We're going to be working with all the muscles that you need to activate to stay strong in this posture. We're going to be working with breath and a little bit of bandhas as well, if you're familiar with that. I really hope you enjoy your practice today. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste. Right, okay, so we're just going to start in our comfortable seated position, making sure we get an appropriate warm-up, moving in all directions before we take the postures any further. So starting in your comfortable cross-legs position, bring your right hand to the outside of the right hip. As we inhale, we extend up through those left fingertips. As we exhale, we side bend over to the right. Maybe you drop down to the elbow, but focus more on drawing that left shoulder blade down and away from the ear. We spin the little finger down towards the floor as we move into an external rotation of that left shoulder, opening up through the left side of the body, grounding down through that left sit bone. As we inhale, we reach up, come through center, look up if it feels nice. Exhale, left hand to the outside of the left hip. Inhale to reach through those right fingertips. Exhale, side bend over towards the left. So again, focus on pressing through that right sit bone, grounding down through the pelvis, nice and stable. Inhale, come up, reach up. Exhale, right hand to the outside of the right hip, left hand towards the right knee. As we inhale, the crown of the head draws away from the tailbone, and as we exhale, we twist. Keep that low belly drawn in. Allow the twist to come from the rib cage. This is going to be really important for later on in practice when we move into a twisted arm balance. Inhale, we come up through center, reach up. Exhale, left hand to the outside of the left hip, right hand towards the left knee. Inhale, the crown of the head draws away. We open up through the chest. As we exhale, we twist. Try to bring awareness to the shoulders here as we move into our twist. So imagine that the shoulder blades are drawing back behind you as you're opening up through the collarbone. Allow the movement to come from the neck and the upper chest and the mid back, but try to keep it out of the lower back and the hips as best you can. Inhale, come through center, reach up, extend. Exhale to release hands down to either side of the hips, coming into a tabletop position on our hands and knees. Wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, feet flat out behind you. As we inhale, we move into cow pose. So the crown of the head lifts up, chest forward, belly drops down, tailbone up. As we exhale, we round the spine, lifting and separate the shoulder blades as we move into cow. Taking 2 more of each at your own pace. Tuning into not only how do you feel in the spine, but also the shoulders and the hips. Are you noticing any tension in any other joints? Be mindful of these, never force anything. Last exhale to round. And then inhale, come back to a neutral position. We'll come into our first downward facing dog. So bring the palms of the hands forward about a hand's distance. You want the wrist creases to be facing the short edge of the mat. Tuck the toes under. Lift those sit bones up and back towards the ceiling. Really focus on pressing through the index finger and the thumb. And then externally rotating the upper arms as if the biceps spin up towards the ceiling and the triceps drop down towards the earth. This is going to be a really crucial movement that we need to establish within our shoulders for later on in our arm balances. So we want to create plenty of space around the neck and the head. And then you can lift the sit bones up towards the ceiling. Keep that low belly drawn in. And begin to drop the heels down towards the earth. if they feel they can reach, or you can begin to pedal the feet, opening up through the hamstrings one at a time. Breathing deep into the rib cage. And you can always drop to a child's pose if this feels too intense. Inhale, look forward. In as many steps as you need, we're going to walk forward to a ragdoll. So feet hips distance apart or even wider, knees bent. Take opposite hand to opposite elbow and bring some soft movements into the body. Just tuning into how you're feeling. And then when you're ready, release the hold of the elbows, staying bent through the knees, strong through the feet, nice and rooted. Begin to roll up the spine, stacking one vertebrae at a time very slowly over the hips, until the chin comes parallel with the floor, Samastitihi. Big toes touching with a little bit of space between the heels. Your quadriceps are engaged, so nice and strong through the legs. Tailbone draws down towards the earth, and you keep that low belly drawn in. Shoulders up and away from the ears with the palms forward, and your chin's parallel with the floor. So I'm just going to use this opportunity to talk about the bandhas a little bit, because we have discussed them before, but these are going to be really crucial for that lift and that lightness. Because what's going to be happening is the pelvis is our center of gravity, and this is going to be shifting around when we're in our balances. So bringing awareness to this place can help stay nice and balanced in our foundations as we can maneuver our center of gravity around with a little bit more control, in theory. So Mula Bandha, your pelvic floor or your root lock. Lift your pelvic floor to about 60% of your capacity, just becoming familiar with this upwards energy, and it keeps that awareness in the pelvis. And then there's Uddiyana Bandha, your high flying lock. Your belly button draws back and up towards the rib cage to about 40% of your capacity. You can feel this draws the energy and it stops it from going downwards. Cut. So I'm just going to use this opportunity to talk about bandhas a little bit. I know we've discussed them before, but I'm just going to go into them again with a little bit more detail. If you forget or it doesn't quite make sense, don't worry about it too much, but it's just going to be really key here for helping you keep your pelvis, which is your center of gravity, in a nice position where it feels balanced and stable, and you've got that ability to maneuver it a little bit easier as you transition through the postures. So we're going to take Mula Bandha, which is your pelvic floor, your root lock, lifted to about 60% of your capacity. So drawing your pelvic floor up, this is going to stop the escape of the downwards energy. So this is going to keep that pelvis nice and lifted. And we've got the Uddiyana Bandha, your high flying lock, belly button drawn back and up towards the rib cage to about 40% of your capacity. This stops the upwards energy. So this keeps the energy located in the pelvis, and it helps to draw that awareness again to your center of gravity, your stability. So keeping this hollowness between the hip bones will help you stay stronger and more balanced in not only transitioning, but as well in balancing postures. But as I said, if you forget, don't worry about it too much. I'll be reminding you plenty of times. We're going to take 3 rounds of sun salutations. We're going to take them with a little bit of a different perspective and a little bit of a different idea of how to make the most of these postures in relation to arm balances. So if you wanted to take them a little bit slower or watch first, you can do that, or take as many as you'd like. So coming to the front of the mat, as we inhale, we draw our arms up overhead. You keep that low belly drawn in. Try to avoid the butt sticking out the back. Low belly drawn in, tailbone draws down towards the earth. Shoulder blades are away from the ears. Keep your palms at shoulder distance apart for now. As we exhale, keeping that low belly drawn in, bend the knees as much as you need to here. Hinge forward from the hips. Try to come down with a straight spine. And this time, I want you to bring your hands to the floor. So they can come to the floor in front of the feet. If you're a little bit more open, then you can bring the fingertips in line with the toes. If you're even more open, then from here you can begin to extend the legs towards straight, but don't force it. Make sure the priority is that the hands are making contact with the earth. So from here, you really want to be pressing through the hands. Make sure that the weight is shifting from the feet into the hands, almost like you're leaning forward. There's a lightness in the feet as you press into the hands. The fingertips are nice and grounded. Exhaling fully. Inhale, head up, look forward, still pressing into the hands. Knees can be as bent as they need to be. As we exhale, we step back to high plank. Okay, so just tuning into the shoulders here. What we want is to be nice and long through the crown of the head to the tailbone. What we don't want is to be collapsing through the upper back, but instead find that lift. Notice the difference here as the shoulder blades draw away and together. Okay, so we're not hunching, we're lifting. As we exhale, try to keep that activation as we lower down all the way onto the belly. Okay? So it's the intention, the activation that counts. As we inhale, elbows into ribs, lift the chest, look forward. Avoid squeezing the glutes. Exhale, forehead releases down. Again, using the strength of the arms. Tabletop. Tuck the toes under, downward facing dog, just holding for a couple of breaths. Continuing here to draw the shoulder blades down the back, away from the ears. And then as we inhale, we look forward. In as many steps as you need, we're going to walk forward again to that halfway lift. Again, bent knees if you need to be, but really pressing through the hands. Feel the arms straight, the arms strong. Shoulder blades draw back together behind you. Exhale, crown of the head releases down. Again, really shifting the weight forward. Low belly draws in, pelvic floor lifted. Inhale, come all the way up. Keep the low belly in. Arms up overhead, tailbone draws down, low belly in, low ribs drawn in, legs nice and strong. Exhale to release. We'll take that again, same variation. Try to, even if you have a tendency to kind of do up-level options, we're going to be working with this same example. Inhale, arms up. Shoulder blades draw down and away from the ears. Consciously release the shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Hands towards the floor, ultimately fingers in line with toes, but wherever you are is fine. Strong through the arms. Inhale to lengthen, lift the chest, look forward. Exhale, stepping back to a high plank. Lowering through chaturanga, so nice and strong through the arms. Try to activate that serratus anterior muscle, which is just in the armpit. So try to stay strong through the armpits as we lower down onto our bellies. Elbows in, tops of the feet flat. Inhale, baby cobra. Lift the chest, look forward, open through the collarbones. Exhale, forehead releases down. Pressing through the hands, downward facing dog. It's actually quite challenging when you bring all this awareness into the body. You may find that it feels a little bit stronger. You may feel as you press your hands into the mat that you understand the kind of the weight shift that you would need to lift those hips high and eventually come up into an arm balance. Inhale, look forward in as many steps as you need. Halfway lift, again, knees bent. Exhale, crown of the head releases down as we bring the chin towards the shins. Inhale, come all the way up. Arms up overhead, look forward. Collarbone open, shoulders down the back. Exhale and release. Last round, inhale. Tailbone draws down, look forward. Exhale. The reason we keep the arms shoulder distance apart is to avoid hunching them around the ears. Inhale, lengthen, pressing through the palms, pressing through the fingertips to stabilize your hands, your foundations. Low belly drawn in, exhale. Through plank, lower down all the way onto the belly. Try to keep the low belly drawn in, activate that core. Inhale. Baby cobra, elbows drawn in, lift the chest, look forward. Exhale, forehead releases, pressing through the hands. Make sure the hands are evenly flat. Exhale. Downward facing dog, holding for a couple of breaths. Inhale, look forward. In as many steps as you need, halfway lift. Low belly in, pelvic floor lifts. Bring that awareness to those hip flexors, the fronts of the legs. Exhale, crown of the head releases down as we open up through the backs of the legs. Inhale, come all the way up. Palms shoulder distance, look forward. And exhale to release into your Samastitihi. Well done. So moving into our arm balances later on in the practice, we're going to be needing to open up through the backs of the legs and open up through the fronts of the legs as well for staying nice and stable. We want that maneuverability to stay strong and to bring our legs in to our center of gravity. So imagine yourself trying to sort of form into a little ball as tight as possible. Having the openness of the muscles will allow us to do that more comfortably. So we're going to start off with a forward fold, Padangusthasana. I'll face you guys. So bring the feet to hips distance apart, hands to the waist, elbows draw behind you, lengthen the spine, lift the chest. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Bring the fingers around the big toes if they reach, otherwise the thighs or the shins is fine. Lengthen the spine, look forward. And as we exhale, the crown of the head releases down towards the floor. So I really want you to bring the awareness now to the hip flexors. So these are going to be really crucial for drawing those knees in towards the chest as we lift up into some arm balances. So focus on activating the fronts of the legs, the quadriceps, and bringing that awareness to that Uddiyana Bandha, your pelvis. See if you can draw the low belly in and then allow yourself to go slightly deeper into the fold. Notice here the stretch along the backs of the legs. This is going to be imperative for helping us keep nice and lifted. Again, bringing the awareness to the shoulders. The shoulder blades draw down the back and away from the ears as we fold. Crown of the head releases down. Inhale, head up, look forward. Exhale here. Inhale, bring the hands to the waist, come all the way back up to center. And exhale to release. Working now with strengthening the legs a little bit so we can keep them nice and lifted in the posture. We're going to come into Utkatasana, chair pose. So bringing the feet to hips distance apart, or you can keep your toes together. We're going to bring the hands to the waist or hands together in the heart center. Inhale. Exhale, sit the hips back down low. Okay, so you want to shift the weight into the heels of the feet. Maybe you can even wiggle the toes here a little bit. You want to be able to see the toes just in front of the knees as we press the palms of the hands together, open up through the shoulders, looking forward. Try to avoid overarching in your lower back and have the intention of the tailbone drawing down towards the earth. Moving into a twist now, bring the right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Okay, so if it doesn't reach there, inside of the knee is fine, or just move with that intention. Doesn't ever have to reach, palms of the hands pressing together. Keep those hips nice and low, make sure the knees are staying even and that right knee isn't shifting forward. Inhale to center. Exhale, other side, left elbow to the outer edge of the right knee. You can always come out if you need to take a rest. Nice and open through the chest, looking out to the side. This is going to be, again, imperative for our twisting arm balance. Inhale through center, come back up. Exhale, release. Well done, shake out the legs. Quite intense. Okay, moving into our next posture, which we're going to move into downward facing dog, and we're just going to establish our foundations a little bit better here as we transition through plank. So coming through a vinyasa, inhale, arms up. Exhale, hinge forward. Inhale, lengthen the spine, look forward. Exhale, stepping back to plank, and this time just pressing through the heels, downward facing dog. So again, bring the awareness to the shoulders, make sure they're drawing down the back, away from the ears. Now the chest open. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shift forward into plank. So shoulders come over the wrists, heels extend behind you. Keep the belly lifted. You can always drop to the knees as well, but try to make sure you're looking for that engagement in the low belly. Exhale through downward facing dog. And now we're going to come into dolphin pose, or dolphin plank pose, which is another one, which is going to be really good for working the core, but this time we're going to be on our forearms. So drop to the forearms one at a time.
Keep the hips high as we extend the heels back behind us. You should feel like a lovely opening in the shoulders. And then shift the weight forward, bring the shoulders over the elbows. You may need to readjust here a little bit as we move into Dolphin Plank. Keep the belly drawn in, feel the heat building. This is going to be imperative for our arm balancing. Exhale to Dolphin, hips up high. And then release to the knees. Okay, we're going to come into Anahathasana, heart-melting pose, which is again going to open up through the shoulders, open up through the chest. This is going to be really useful posture if you're ever coming into postures like inverted arm balances, such as headstand, forearm stand, and handstand. We won't be working with those quite today, but if you're ever looking to start those, then you're going to need that openness through the backs of the arms, the triceps, and the backs of the deltoids as well. So bringing your arms forward, keeping the hips stacked over the knees, hips distance apart, feet flat out behind you. Extend the arms out to the front corners of the mat. Release the forehead down towards the earth or a block and release your chest down towards the floor. Feel the openness in the backs of the arms as you try to extend through the collarbone. Try and stay nice and open. Inhale, begin to walk your hands back up. And we're going to take Navasana boat pose, which is again going to be really working that core. So bringing your legs out in front, we're going to take 3 rounds. You have a choice of whichever variation feels more accessible to you. If you're quite new to the practice, really focus on lengthening the spine. You don't want to be rounding or collapsing through the upper back. So take a hold of the back of the thighs, feel a lightness in the toes. Begin to bring your legs towards parallel with the earth. This may feel like enough for you, keeping the hands on the backs of the thighs. Focus on drawing the chest through, lifting it towards the knees. If you wanted to take it a little bit deeper, release the arms, palms face each other, looking towards the toes. If you find that when this movement happens, then just stay lifted here. Final option is to begin to extend the legs towards straight, again looking towards the toes. You should be feeling it in your low belly. If your legs are straight, you should be feeling it in the tops of the legs as well, the quadriceps and the psoas muscles, those hip flexors. Keep nice and lifted through the chest. Look forward, exhale. Release, just take a moment here, crossing the legs, lengthen the spine. Then we'll take our second round. You can take the same variation or a different one. Stay nice and open through the chest, breathe deep. Activate your bandhas, pelvic floor lifts, low belly draws in. Exhale, cross at the legs, release, just holding for a moment. If you need to bring movement into your spine between boats, that's fine. Hopefully you're feeling that heat building, that energy lifting. You want to find that balance of energy building without fatiguing yourself. So if you're ever getting exhausted, make sure you rest. Last round. Look to the toes. Fingers together, palms face each other. Open through the collarbone, open through the throat. Lift the chin slightly away from the chest. And exhale, release, crossing at the shins, just taking any movements that feel good. So we're going to start now in coming into what's called Upluti, I think traditionally, but we're going to focus on lifting those hips up. So if you're super flexible, then you can take lotus here. I don't recommend it unless you're really, really confident with your lotus. I'm not even going to demonstrate it. But what we're going to focus on is lifting the hips up and find. So you're going to bring your hands just in front of the hips. You're going to round through the upper back. So this is kind of contrary to what we normally feel we should be doing in yoga. Normally we're like extend forward. We're going to bring the palms forward and round through the upper back. And then what happens is we draw that low belly in, lift the pelvic floor and extend the arms towards straight. We lift the hips up. Okay, if you're feeling quite strong, you can lift the feet up as well. So as we bring the arms towards straight, keep that low belly drawn in, so we're rounding the spine in order to keep the hips lifted. Looking forward. And release down. Take some soft movements in the hips if you need to. Okay, we're gonna build on from that now. So hopefully you're feeling like fire in your belly. This is what we're working for. Hopefully you're feeling the strength in the arms as well. We're gonna take I've forgotten what the name of this posture is. Oh no, I forgot what it's called, but anyway, we'll get on with it. So we're gonna take another variation where we're gonna be working with those hip flexors to keep them nice and strong. So what we're gonna do is our first arm balance as well, is we're gonna bend our right knee. You're gonna place your right shoulder underneath your right thigh as if you're kind of putting on a backpack. The higher up you can get that knee onto the shoulder, the better your posture is going to feel. So obviously if you haven't got the mobility to get it up here yet, then just placing it sort of above the elbow is fine, but avoid putting any unnecessary pressure on the joints. And then you're going to bring your right hand out to the side, your left hand in front of your hip, on the left side, fingers spread nice and wide. And then from here you're going to lift your hips up. Okay, your left foot can stay on the floor, right toes flex back towards you, or if you're feeling it, lift the left leg, toes point. Feel the heat, feel the shaking is fine. And release down. Well done. Right knee in and release. Shake out the legs. And we'll come into that on the other side. So again, this is an arm balance. It's a hard one. Really feeling it in the fronts of the legs. So this is quite an advanced arm balance, but I'm using it first to demonstrate the amount of strength that you need to keep the low belly in and the hips nice and high. So next side, so draw the left knee in, place the left knee over the shoulder as if you're putting on a backpack. Left hand comes out to side of the foot, just in front of the hip, right hand comes on the other side, fingers spread nice and wide. As we inhale, we lift the hips up. Left toes flex back towards you. You can keep the right heel on the floor or begin to lift, toes point. Look straight ahead and release. Feel shaking? It's good, it means it's working. And shake out the legs. Well done. So we're going to come into a first Bakasana, crow pose. So this is often used as one of the first postures we learn in yoga for arm balancing. That's not to say it's an easy posture, but because we're not moving too far from the earth, people often feel more comfortable falling out of it than say handstands and things like that. So for the first, to start with, we're just going to come into a downward facing dog. Well, I prefer to come from a downward facing dog. You can come from it however you'd like. You look to the hands, and then you're going to bend the knees, hips high, step or jump your feet to the outsides of the hands. Coming into a Malasana. So feet out at 45 degrees or so, bend the knees as much as you can to bring the hips nice and low. If you can't keep the heels on the floor, then you can keep your hands on the floor or roll up the mat to support your heels. Press the elbows into the knees, palms together at the heart center. As we lift the chest, continue to draw the shoulders away from the ears, opening up through the collarbone. This is Malasana. It's opening up through the hips. Continue to draw the low belly in here. And imagine that you're squeezing the arms with the inner thighs. This is the movement that's going to be really useful for your Bakasana position, your crow pose, which is the next posture we're going to take. If you would like to just stay here, then you can just stay here. Otherwise, I'm just going to turn to face the front of my mat. If you have a cushion, I forgot to bring one with me. If you have a cushion, then you can place it in front of your face, so you feel a little bit more confident about folding forwards if you do tip over. Another useful prop is to have a block behind you, which you can place your feet on and slowly lift up this way. So bringing the hands down to the floor, about shoulder distance apart, palms spread nice and wide. Begin to straighten the legs, bring the feet together. Okay, so this is where if you had a block, you'd step your feet onto the block. Bring the knees to the outer upper arms towards the armpits, above the elbows. Begin to tip the weight forward, looking forward. Bring one leg up at a time. Look straight in front of you, heels towards the sit bones. Maybe over time, the arms come to more of a straight position. Keep that low belly drawn in, squeeze the arms with the legs. And then when you're ready to come out, release back to a Malasana, release the wrists. Lovely, and then just come back to a seat for a moment. We're going to come into a twist before we come into the twisted version of our Bakasana. So draw the right knee in, bring the right foot to the outside of the left knee. Hold onto the right knee with the left hand if that feels good, right hand out behind you, or if it feels nice, elbow to the outer edge of the knee, palm faces out. Keep the left toes flexed, looking out over the right shoulder. So low belly draws in, try to keep the shoulders over the hips, avoid collapsing backwards. Maybe you're feeling a stretch in the outer edge of the right thigh as well. But aiming to feel the stretch as we twist a little bit deeper. Notice your breathing as well, breathe deep. My breathing tends to become a little bit more erratic when I take arm balances and challenging postures. So breathing deep as you can. Inhale, look to center. Exhale, unwind, bring the knee to center and release. Left knee in, inhale, left foot to the outside of the right thigh. Left hand out behind you, take a hold of the right, with the right hand to the left thigh, or outer edge of the right elbow towards the outer edge of the left thigh. Palm faces out, right toes flexed, open through the collarbone. Connect the shoulder blades together behind you. Inhale, look to center, unwind, draw the left knee to center and release. So I forgot to mention actually at the start of class, if you feel any pains in your wrists, be very, very gentle with arm balances. Make sure that you're not feeling any sharp sensations. If you know that it's an area that you need to work with, then you can get really great props. I've forgotten if they've got a name exactly, but they're like little wedge blocks, and they're sort of triangular shaped blocks. And what that does is when you press your hand onto the block at this angle, it reduces the range of flexion in the wrist, so it reduces that strain in the wrist as you move into your arm balances. And they're really beneficial props if you have any sensations in the wrists. Okay, we're going to move into Parivita Bakasana. So revolved Bakasana, revolved crow pose. So we're just going to come back into our Malasana position. I'm going to come at it from a downward facing dog. Jumping forward. And then just to face you, this time we're going to bring our feet together. Sit low as if you're sitting down, your hips to your heels. Oh, that sun's just come out, that's beautiful. You're going to bring your hands to the right side of your body. Okay, so you want them to be about shoulder distance apart. Fingers spread nice and wide, wrist creases face the edge of the mat. Then what you're going to do is you're going to lift your hips high. You're going to place your right hip on the top of the right arm and your left knee on the top of the left arm. You can keep your feet on the floor or a block, or you can begin to lift them up and look out to the side. Pressing through the fingertips to find your stability. And if you come out, you can come back in, or you can rest. And release. Well done. Shake out the wrists. Well done. And we'll come into that on the other side. So, if you need to take a rest between postures, feel free. Feet together, hips nice and low. This time, twisting over to the left. Try to keep your pelvis nice and balanced. Make sure that that right knee doesn't sort of drop in front, but the knees stay in line with each other. Palms spread, nice and wide. Lift the hips up. so that the left hip draws above the left elbow, right knees above the right elbow. Look to the side, lift those feet up only if you feel balanced. Pressing through the fingertips. Ultimately, your left hip will be off the left elbow and you'll just be balancing with your knees on the right elbow. Okay, come back. Release. Well done. Shake out the wrists. And we'll come back down to a seat. And this time, we're going to take Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. So draw the knees in towards the chest, soles of the feet together. Interlace the fingers around the big toes, or keep the hands to the outside of the hips, lengthen the spine. And then as we exhale, we hinge forward from the hips. So either elbows out towards the inner thighs or drawing in towards the hip creases as we lift the chest and look forward. This is going to prepare us for our next arm balance, which is Bhuja Padasana, shoulder pressing pose. If at any point you're feeling, you know what, that's enough arm balances for me today, then feel free to stop here, skip to the end of the video where you can take a rest. I'm just offering up lots of options because for some people, certain postures can be really tricky, and then they try something different with a different alignment cue and they get it. So it's just nice to try out these different things. You don't have to come into all of these, but if you find something that resonates with you, fantastic. And if you don't, then you're working all those wonderful muscles that you need to stay strong and stable. Inhale, come back up through center, draw the knees to center. And then we're going to come back to that Malasana position. So again, I'm going to come at it from a downward facing dog. If you prefer to just come to it, then you can hop, step, jump the feet to the outsides of the hands. And this time, what we're going to do is we're going to sit the hips low. And you can, well, first of all, first option is again to come into Malasana. If you're just working with this, that's fine. Otherwise, you're going to begin to bend the knees, heel toe the feet in slightly. Again, like you're putting on a backpack, but this time with both arms, draw your right arm underneath the right knee, left arm underneath the left knee. Bring the hands to shoulder distance apart and sit the hips back. Okay, so you're just working with this, that's fine. Otherwise, you can interlace the right foot over the left. Keep that low belly drawn in, pelvic floor lifted, look forward. Ultimately, the toes will be floating, the feet will be floating off the floor. And in the very full expression of the postures, you move into a forward fold as well, with either the chin or the forehead touching the earth. Pressing through the fingers, grounding down through the palms of the hands. Keep that pelvic floor lifted, low belly drawn in, strong in the shoulders. And then you can release the feet if you can, extend the legs towards straight, and then release them back. Release the wrists. Okay, come back to sit down. Okay, and then for our very last posture, I have decided, well, for our very last arm balancing posture, I've decided we're going to take headstand. This is a little bit confusing because often it's not seen as an arm balance, whereas it really, really should be. You should really be wanting very little to no weight on the crown of the head in this posture. So if you're not sure of headstand, we're just going to work with the modification today. If you've kind of got quite a strong headstand practice, then we can work with lifting up as well. Okay, so for headstand, the most important thing is your foundations. Like I said, this is an arm balance. We really want the strength to be coming from the shoulders as we lift the shoulders away. So practice this first. Bring your arms out. Face you. Bring your arms out in front of you. Take your hands to your biceps on the opposite side and then interlace your fingers. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to tuck that little finger in. This is going to be your foundations. Now imagine that this is your foundations pressing into the earth. So press the elbows away from you Press the elbows as if they're hitting an imaginary wall, and see if you can isolate that serratus anterior muscle, that muscle just here along the rib cage underneath your armpit. See if you can find that. Okay, and then we want to imagine that the shoulders are drawing away from the ears, so the shoulder blades depress down away from the ears. Okay, this is going to be our foundations. Okay, if you're just working with this, you can stay here. Otherwise, we're going to take it into, similar to how we did that dolphin plank variation earlier, we're going to do the dolphin version now. Okay, so we're going to come into our headstand variation, dolphin variation. So coming on to your elbows and your knees, you're going to bring your hands to your biceps like we did before, setting up for that practice balance, like we did for the preparatory posture. And then what you're going to do is you're going to interlace the fingers. Little finger, the underneath finger tucks in. And what you're going to do is you're going to place the back of the head on those wrist creases, okay? So that's your nice strong foundation. That's ultimately where we're going to be going anyway. But for now, you're going to tuck those toes under, lift those hips nice and high. So you want to, again, focus on bringing awareness to that serratus anterior muscle if you can isolate it by pressing into the forearms. Shoulders draw down and away from the ears if you can. Feel the strength building here in the shoulders. Hips nice and high. So this is the preparatory posture. Keep the low belly drawn in, pelvic floor lifted. And if this feels like enough for you, you can stay here for another few breaths, taking rest when you need to. For headstand, you're going to place your head in between your hands with the back of the head to the wrist creases, like I said. And then from here, you're going to make sure that your elbows are nice and strong, lifting the shoulder blades away from the ears, pressing through the forearms, lift the knees and begin to walk the toes in. Okay, so you may feel here like a lightness in the toes. Work with this. Begin to bring one leg up, maybe two, coming into an egg position. And then maybe, as you get more confident, begin to bring the legs towards straight, but continue here to press through the forearms. Those shoulders draw away from the ears, low belly draws in, tailbone reaches towards the backs of the heels. Try to maintain a steady breath. Find one position that doesn't move. And then when you're ready to come out, see how slowly you can come out. Release gently. Come into a child's pose, everybody. Child's pose. Keep the arms extended out in front, knees wide. Release the forehead down. Steady your breath. Now very gently walk the hands back up. Bring the knees together, sit the hips off to one side and extend the legs out in front. Come down to lay down on your back. We're just going to come into Apanasana, draw the knees in towards the chest, take a hold of the back of the thighs or the shins. A very gentle rock from side to side. If you'd like to take happy baby, you can take that, bring the soles of the feet up towards the ceiling, taking hold of the thighs, the outsides of the shins or the outsides of the feet. Beginning to roll maybe side to side. Try to lengthen the tailbone away from the crown of the head. Breathing deep. And then when you're ready, draw the knees in, give them a little hug and extend the legs out long, releasing into your Shavasana. A very well-earned Shavasana. Release the arms alongside the body, the palms face up, bring the feet wide. Release your low belly, release your bandhas, release your breath, and allow the soft, natural rhythms to return to you. Feel as the body fills with maybe a light tingling sensation after all the work it's done, all the strength it's been building. All the energy traveling through the wrists, the fingertips. the breath begin to slowly and naturally deepen, flooding the body with this beautiful, powerful energy. And allow the mind to quiet. Any thoughts or stories that pass you by, let them go. Any judgments that your ego attaches onto, let them go. And allow yourself to be completely present and grateful for your journey, whatever that looks like for you today. And be grateful to yourself for showing up onto your practice. And allow yourself to rest here in complete stillness in Shavasana. And I recommend you stay in your Shavasana for at least another 3 to 5 minutes if you have the time. Thank you so much for joining me as you go forward. I wish you peace in your thoughts, peace in your words, peace in your heart. Namaste.